Good evening, listeners. My name is EveningWhisperTales. Tonight, I'll be telling you some scary horror stories to help you relax and fall asleep. If you enjoy this channel, I'd really appreciate it if you like and subscribe. Now, let's begin our evening together. Story 1. The Fog That Waited. You noticed the fog first because it wasn't moving the way fog should. Normal fog drifts. It rolls. It spills over hills like milk. This fog rested across the road as if it had been placed there, thick and low, careful not to cross the tree line. Your headlights cut it into pale corridors that ended too quickly. The beam swallowed a few meters ahead, like the darkness had learned how to drink light. You didn't remember leaving the highway. You tried to rewind your thoughts. Last exit, last sign, last song on the radio. But the memory slid away every time you touched it. Not sharply, not like panic. Softer, like a name you knew once but stopped using. The radio hissed in a steady, patient tone. Turning the knob changed nothing. It didn't crackle louder or fade away. It was the same sound at every station. Like the car had forgotten the difference between channels. Trees appeared at the edge of the headlights. Tall, thin, pale trunks. Their branches leaned inward, not enough to scrape the sky, but enough to suggest that if the road narrowed anymore, it would be swallowed by wood. Then the fog thinned for a moment, and you saw it, set back in a clearing like a thought left waiting. A house, 2 stories, narrow windows, a porch stretching the length of the front like a careful smile. The lawn was cut short and even, despite the wilderness surrounding it. No driveway lights, no mailbox, no sign of any other building, just that house, holding its place. One upstairs window glowed warmly. Your foot eased off the gas without permission. When the car stopped, the engine ticked as it cooled, loud in the quiet. Fog curled around your tires like fingers testing your resolve. Behind you, the road faded into gray. The porch light clicked on the moment you opened the car door. Story 2. The porch that leaned in. The porch. Boards bowed under your weight, but they didn't groan like old wood. They shifted, a sound like furniture being adjusted for company. You paused halfway across, keys tight in your fist, and looked back at your car. It seemed smaller, not farther away, just less real, like an object from a previous day. The railing was freshly painted, pale, smooth, clean, no peeling, no mildew. A welcome mat sat in front of the door. It didn't say, "Welcome." It didn't say anything at all. It was blank, but the fibers looked brushed in one direction, as if someone had only just finished arranging it. The doorknob shone faintly in the porch light. When your fingers wrapped around it, the metal felt warm, not sun warm, skin warm, as if a hand had been there seconds before yours. You hesitated long enough to hear the fog moving behind you, whispering against grass. Then you told yourself you were tired, that fear makes patterns out of nothing, and you turned the knob. The door opened easily. Inside, the air was still and cool, scented faintly with soap and dustless fabric. Not abandoned, not lived in, prepared, like a room set for guests who never arrived. A narrow foyer stretched ahead with dark wood floors that reflected the porch light behind you. A staircase curved upward along the left wall. The banister was polished smooth by countless touches. You stepped inside. The door closed behind you, not slammed, not forced, simply finished. You tried the knob, unlocked. That somehow felt worse than a lock. Like the house wasn't trapping you with force, it was letting you remain by choice. From deeper inside, something creaked, softly, thoughtfully, like the house acknowledging that you'd crossed a line between outside and in. Story 3. The rooms that hold their breath. You move from room to room the way you move through someone else's house when they've stepped out, quietly, politely, pretending you belong there. The living room held 2 identical couches facing each other across a low table. No television, no books, no clutter. Everything, spaced with the designer's care, like a showroom staged for people who didn't have habits. When you pressed a cushion with your fingertips, it felt warm, not heated, not recently sat on. Warm like it had always been warm, as if the house's temperature was set around the idea of bodies. The kitchen was spotless. The sink was empty. The countertops were bare except for a kettle whose metal sides were fogged with cooling condensation. You lifted the lid, dry. The dining room table was long, polished, and set with 8 chairs, each pushed in perfectly. 8. You counted them once, then again, as if the second count might correct the first. You were alone. A hallway branched off near the stairs. Doors lined it, painted the same soft gray as the walls. Small brass plates were screwed beside each one. Letters engraved with careful patience. Study, guest room, storage, second guest room. Second, you didn't like that detail. It implied expectation. It implied repetition. You turned back toward the foyer, needing the front door in your line of sight, and stopped. The foyer looked longer than it had moments ago, only by a little. Not enough to prove, enough to notice, enough to make your stomach tighten. You blinked hard. The distance returned to normal. But when you exhaled, you realized the house had gone quiet in a way that felt attentive, like it was listening to your thoughts to decide what to do next. Story 4. The bedroom chosen for you. You didn't decide to go upstairs. Your feet simply drifted that way, carried by that tired part of you that believes the next room will explain the last. The staircase swallowed sound. Each step landed into soft carpet like snow. Halfway up, you notice framed photographs on the wall. Not portraits, rooms. A bathtub viewed from above. A closet with its door half open. A stair landing. A corner of a ceiling with a thin crack that looked like a vein. Each photo had a label beneath it in small, careful script, as if the house was cataloging itself. At the top, the door marked guest room stood open. Inside was a narrow bed with a cream quilt tucked into perfect angles. The pillow looked fluffed by hands that knew exactly how you like it. Too firm to be a stranger's guess, too soft to be coincidence. At the foot of the bed sat a suitcase. Your suitcase. You froze in the doorway. The same scuffed corner. The same airline tag looped around the handle. The same dent near the zipper where you'd once dropped it down a flight of stairs. You crossed the room slowly, as if moving too fast might make it vanish. You touched the handle, cold. But when you lifted it, the suitcase was lighter than it should have been, like it didn't contain your things, only the idea of them. On the nightstand lay a folded note, blank at first glance. The paper looked new, crisp, waiting. A pen sat beside it. You didn't touch either. Behind you, the bedroom door eased shut with a soft click that sounded terribly like satisfaction. Story 5. The sound under the floor. You tried to sleep because the alternative was to stay awake and let fear chew through you until morning. And you already suspected morning wouldn't be normal here. The mattress accepted your weight too easily, sinking exactly where your body needed it to. The quilt warmed within seconds, as if it had been waiting for your temperature like a missing ingredient. You stared at the ceiling. Smooth, too smooth, No vents, no cracks, no stains, just blank paint like a page. Then you heard it, a sound like breathing, not in the room, under it, inside the floorboards, deep in the ribs of the house. You rolled onto your side and pressed your ear to the mattress. The sound changed, subtly, carefully, matching your own rhythm as if learning. Inhale, exhale. You held your breath. The breathing continued anyway, steady and calm. When you breathed again, it adjusted, patiently, like a companion syncing their steps beside you. Your phone buzzed. A notification lit the screen. Sleep mode enabled. You hadn't turned it on. You tried to unlock your phone. The screen dimmed instead, like the device had grown sleepy too. From inside the wall, something whispered, not a full word, not yet, just a soft shape of one, pressed through plaster like a mouth speaking through fabric. Your name, almost formed, almost spoken. Story 6. The hallway that moved. You woke without knowing how long you'd slept. The room was darker, and the silence felt layered, as though it had been carefully arranged. The lamp on the nightstand glowed faintly, though you didn't remember turning it on. The light didn't reach far. It was the kind of glow meant to keep you calm without letting you see too much. You sat up. The door was farther away than it had been, only a foot or two, not enough for a dramatic change, enough to make you stare at the space between bed and door, until your eyes hurt. You stood. The floor beneath your bare feet was warm, like it carried heat from somewhere inside the walls. Outside the room, the upstairs hallway stretched farther than it should have, the runner carpet unrolling into shadow. Every door along it stood open now, each doorway a dark mouth holding still air. At the far end, you heard a sound like pages turning, slow, methodical, not hurried, reading. Your mouth went dry because the sound wasn't coming from a person sitting with the book. It was coming from inside the house itself, from within walls and floors, like the structure had its own hidden library and was calmly searching for the right chapter. Behind you, the mattress sighed softly, not settling, disappointed. Story 7. The second guest room is no longer empty. You told yourself you wouldn't look, that you'd stay in the known spaces, your room, the stairs, the foyer, places with clear edges, places that behaved, but the hallway doors were open now, and open doors make promises. You moved toward the door labeled second guest room. The brass plate was warm to the touch, not heated, warmed as if held. Inside, the room was almost identical to yours. The same narrow bed, the same cream quilt, the same lamp. But where your room felt prepared, this one felt occupied. The air was warmer. The quilt had a slight depression near the center, like a body had lain there recently. The pillow carried the faintest indentation of a head. On the nightstand sat a glass of water. The surface was perfectly still, but a ring of condensation marked the wood beneath it. You leaned closer. There was a single hair on the pillowcase. Not long, not short, just human. You stepped back, pulse loud in your ears. Then you noticed the closet door. It was open a crack, a thin line of darkness. You did not want to look inside. You wanted to close the door and pretend you'd never opened this room. But the house had made the choice. For you. Because from inside the closet came that same soft breathing sound. Steady, calm, like someone asleep in a space too small to be kind. You closed the bedroom door quietly and backed away, moving as if noise might be interpreted as permission. Behind the door, the breathing continued, unbothered. Story 8, the note that writes, back. You returned to your room and shut the door. You didn't lock it because something you suspected locks were only suggestions here. The folded note on the nightstand waited like a dare. You stared at it for a long time, until the silence pressed on your eardrums and your thoughts began to blur at the edges. Finally, you unfolded the paper. Blank. You exhaled, almost laughing, until you saw the pen beside it. You picked it up. It was heavy, warm, and slightly sticky, as if it had been held for too long. Your hand hovered over the paper without choosing a word. You didn't want to write a plea. You didn't want to write your name. You didn't want to participate. But the tip of the pen touched the page anyway, and the pen moved, not guided by your hand, not forced exactly, more like your fingers forgot how to resist. A line formed in clean, careful handwriting. You are safe here. Your throat tightened. You lifted the pen. The paper remained still, the message dark and certain. Then, slowly, beneath it, a second line appeared without ink moving at all, letters seeping into being as though the page itself was remembering them. Tell us how you like to sleep. You backed away from the nightstand, heartbeat thudding. The lamp dimmed slightly, just a fraction, as if waiting for your answer. Story 9. The closet that breathes back. You didn't answer the note. You left it open on the nightstand, the words, "Tell us how you like to sleep," sitting there like a question asked in a voice too polite to refuse. You tried to focus on normal things, your phone, your bag, the shape of the room, but the house made normality feel thin, like paper held up to light. The closet door was closed when you looked at it. Then you blinked, and it wasn't. Not open wide, only a finger's width, a dark line where darkness pooled. You listened, holding your breath the way you might in a childhood game, waiting to hear proof that you weren't alone. A soft sound came from the gap. In, out, breathing, slow and careful, like someone asleep in a room you didn't know was shared. You stepped closer until your toes touched the closet door. The wood was warm, oddly alive beneath the paint. You lifted your hand and rested your palm against it. The breathing paused. You froze, heart kicking. Then the breathing resumed, now matching your own rhythm with unsettling accuracy, as if the house had been paying attention from the start. Inhale, exhale. The door pushed outward a fraction, not forced, not urgent, like a chest rising beneath your hand. You pulled your palm away, quickly. Your skin tingled as if you'd touched a sleeping animal. Behind you, the bed creaked, not from movement, from expectation. You sat on the edge of the mattress, facing the closet. You told yourself you wouldn't look inside. You told yourself you'd stay awake. You told yourself you still had control over simple choices. The lamp dimmed slightly. The room warmed gently. And in the quiet, the closet continued to breathe as if it had always been part of you. Story 10. The light that comes from nowhere. When you turned off the lamp, the room did not become dark. At first you thought the bulb hadn't fully clicked off. You reached toward the switch again, then stopped. The lamp was off. The cord lay slack, yet the room held a soft glow, a pale gold that didn't come from any obvious source. You looked closer. Light seeped from the seams where the baseboards met the wall, from the thin line beneath the bedroom door, from the closet crack where the darkness didn't swallow it so much as filter it, like cloth over a lantern. It pulsed faintly, slow as breathing. You knelt, pressing your cheek to the carpet near the door, and watched the light under it brighten and fade, like a heartbeat, like a lullaby done with illumination instead of sound. In that soft glow, you noticed the suitcase at the foot of the bed had shifted. It sat straighter now, squared to the bed frame as if someone had aligned it. Your fingers curled into the carpet. "Stop," you whispered, though you weren't sure what you were asking to stop. The moving, the watching, the organizing. No answer came, but something changed anyway. The closet door opened another inch. A sliver of interior revealed itself. Not hanging clothes, not emptiness, but something pale and flat, like the side of a face pressed against darkness. You blinked hard. It was gone. The light dimmed, satisfied. From somewhere in the walls came a faint rustling sound, like pages being turned, searching for a paragraph that had your name in it. Story 11. The Night Kitchen. Hunger arrived suddenly, sharp enough to cut through your fear. You hadn't eaten since you couldn't remember clearly. The house blurred, timed the way it blurred distance, making your needs show up like reminders. When you stood, you felt the ache in your stomach and realized your body was being used as a clock. Downstairs, the kitchen was lit, not bright, cozy. A single warm lamp on the counter, a low glow beneath the cabinets, light arranged to make corners gentle. A pot steamed softly on the stove. You stood in the doorway, listening for footsteps, but the house was still. The steam curled upward as if the soup itself was breathing. You approached carefully. Inside the pot floated noodles and vegetables arranged with strange neatness, as though placed individually. The smell was comforting. Salt, herbs, something that reminded you of a childhood kitchen you hadn't thought of in years. A bowl waited on the table. You didn't remember setting it out. You ladled soup into it anyway because your hands needed something to do, because hunger makes you compromise. The spoon clinked once against ceramic. The sound echoed too long. You ate standing up, tasting warmth and familiarity and the soft fear beneath it. The soup tasted like safety you didn't trust, like comfort offered by something that wanted you calm. When you finished, you looked down. The bowl was clean, not empty, clean as if washed. The spoon was gone. You turned toward the stove. The pot sat there for one breath longer. Then the steam stopped, and the pot was simply not there. No fade, no trick, just absence, like the house had decided the scene was done. On the fridge door, a note held by a magnet appeared where none had been before. You need routine. Story 12. The chair that remembers. You went to the sitting room because it felt safer than the upstairs. The fireplace was lit now behind glass, slow orange flames breathing without sound, no crackle, no smell, a fire that offered warmth without the mess of reality. And in front of it, where one couch had been, stood a rocking chair, wooden, pale cushion, curved arms polished smooth. It faced the fire like someone had been using it for years. You didn't sit. The chair rocked anyway, back, forward, once, twice, then stopped as if it had completed a polite demonstration. The cushion sank slightly, an indentation forming as though an invisible person had leaned into it. You watched, throat tight, waiting for the imprint to fade. It didn't. On the coffee table lay your notebook. You did not remember bringing it downstairs. It was open to a fresh page. Ink darkened slowly, like the words were being pressed into the paper from the other side. You will sleep deeper tonight. We're learning how much space you need. You glanced around the sitting room. The walls looked closer than they should, not enough to measure, enough to feel. The rocking chair creaked softly again, a sound like approval. Then the fire's glow brightened a fraction, and you realized the house wasn't trying to scare you. It was trying to reassure you. like a parent who thinks you're overreacting. Story 13. The upstairs gets shorter. When you finally climb the stairs, your legs noticed it before your eyes did. The steps were shallower. Each rise was slightly less than it should be. The staircase didn't strain your knees. It carried you upward too gently, like it wanted you to conserve energy. At the top, the hallway was narrower, not drastically, but you could feel the wall's presence on either side, like people standing too close in an elevator. The carpet runner, once soft and wide, looked tighter, its edges closer to the baseboards, as if the hallway had pulled itself inward. There were more doors now. You were certain there were more. Some had brass plates with neat labels. Some had no plates at all, as if the house hadn't decided what they were yet. One plate caught your eye because it looked newer, the brass less tarnished. Your breath stuck. You tried to walk past it, but the light above it brightened, as if guiding you. The farther you moved away, the dimmer the hallway became behind you, until the air felt colder in those shadows. The house was not forcing you, it was incentivizing you. A door behind you clicked shut softly, not slammed, closed as if someone didn't want to wake you. You turned. You hadn't seen that door close. You hadn't even noticed it open. Story 14. The bed that knows your shape. Back in your room, the bed looked wrong. The quilt was rumpled, pulled down as if someone had gotten up minutes ago. The pillow was warm. The mattress held a shallow indentation on the side facing the door, the exact shape of a body lying there, watching. You hadn't been in the room. You knew you had it, but the bed insisted otherwise, displaying evidence like a polite accusation. On the nightstand, the note had changed. The first sentence was still there. You are safe here. But beneath it, new words had appeared, written in the same clean hand. Too much light? As you read, the lamp dimmed slightly. Too quiet? A soft hum rose in the walls, low and soothing. Too cold? Warmth spread through the floorboards under your feet. You grabbed the note and tore it in half, angry at yourself for how helpless you felt. Both halves developed new ink. We can fix that. The closet breathed once, deep, content. Then softly the mattress creaked again, as if inviting you to lie down and stop making problems. Story 15. The mirror that pauses. In the bathroom, the mirror reflected you a half-second late. You leaned closer, eyes scanning your own face for signs you were dreaming. You moved your hand slowly in front of the glass, your reflection followed, late, a delayed echo. You raised your eyebrows. Your reflection did it after a breath. When you stopped moving, it kept going. It smiled, not your smile. A soft, tired smile that looked proud, the way someone smiles when you finally do what they've been gently asking you to do. Your stomach twisted, you backed away from the sink. The lights flickered once, quick as a blink. When they steadied, the reflection matched you again. Expression neutral, movement synced. The mirror fogged at the corners without steam. Letters appeared on the glass, drawn by nothing, almost ready. You wiped them away with your sleeve. They returned immediately, neater than before, as if your effort had merely encouraged the house to improve its handwriting. A faint scraping sound came from the hallway outside, like furniture being adjusted. Preparing. Story 16. The house practices night. By the time darkness fell, you understood the pattern. The house practiced night the way a musician practices scales, repeating the same steps until they were perfect. Curtains drew themselves closed, doors eased into their frames, lights lowered to soft pools cools. The temperature evened out room by room, smoothing extremes until everything was comfortable. Too comfortable. You stood in the hallway and watched the house prepare, like a parent smoothing blankets and turning down noise. The humming returned, layered now, multiple tones overlapping in quiet harmony. A choir hidden in beams and plaster. You felt your shoulders loosen without permission. Your breathing slowed, sinking to the walls. The house wasn't sedating you with drugs or force. It was training your body. Your notebook appeared open in your hands. You didn't remember picking it up. A new line had formed. Stop fighting the bedtime. Downstairs, the fireplace glow softened. Upstairs, your lamp clicked off. Somewhere behind the closet door, something shifted as if settling into a familiar sleeping position. The house wasn't just preparing a night. It was preparing your night, and it felt, in the worst way, like it was getting better at it. Story 17. The door marked you. You tried to ignore the brass plate that read you, but ignoring it made it louder in your mind. The hallway was dim everywhere else, a soft gradient of warm shadow, except for that door. Light pooled around it as if the ceiling bulb had been angled deliberately, as if the house wanted you to see the label clearly, wanted you to understand it wasn't a joke or a metaphor. You walked past it anyway, jaw clenched, eyes forward. Behind you, the doorknob turned, not quickly, not with urgency. Slowly, like a hand taking its time because it knows you're listening. The latch clicked with gentle certainty, the sound of a polite decision being made. A draft slid out from the crack beneath the door. It smelled faintly like clean laundry and skin after sleep. Familiar, but not your current scent. Your scent from years ago. Childhood mornings, hair still warm from dreams, sheets dried outside. Your throat tightened. You did not turn around. The house did not force you. It simply narrowed the hallway a fraction, the walls drawing in like a quiet embrace until you could feel their presence on both sides. The air grew warmer, close and intimate, like the corridor had become a whisper. Your notebook was suddenly in your hand. You didn't remember picking it up. It was open to a blank page, and ink appeared as you stared, slow as bleeding. You will look. Your fingers tingled. Your body turned like it had been rehearsing. The door stood open a few inches. Inside, darkness, thick and soft, and at the edge of that darkness, something pale, like the side of a face, like a sleeve, like a sheet pulled back just enough to be seen. A whisper slipped out through the gap. Your name, perfectly pronounced. Story 18. A room with your old weather. You pushed the door open because resisting had started to feel like swimming upstream in warm water. The hinges didn't squeal. They didn't even creak. The door moved as if it had been waiting in the exact right position, ready to cooperate. The room beyond wasn't dark in the way unlit rooms are dark. It was dark like closed eyes. Then the house allowed a gentle glow to gather, soft, amber without a lamp, revealing a small bedroom that made your stomach drop for reasons you couldn't explain at first. The shape of it was wrong for this house. The window was set slightly off-center. The closet leaned a fraction to the left. The ceiling corner held a faint line, like a crack that had been repaired and painted over, but still remembered its old shape. It was your old room. Not perfectly, not exactly, but close enough that your body recognized it before your mind accepted it. The air smelled like rain on warm pavement, summer storms, sidewalks steaming. that sharp, comforting scent that lives in the back of your throat and makes you want to be inside with the windows open. On the bed lay a blanket you used to own, folded with perfect corners. The pattern was faded in the places it always faded. The threadbare patch near one edge had been repaired, stitched neatly, lovingly, by hands that wanted it usable again. A desk sat beneath the window. On it, a sharpened pencil, a fresh sheet of paper, and handwriting you recognized instantly. Yours, but younger, rounder, careful. You lifted a page. It described the fog, the porch, the upstairs hallway, written as if you'd known this place long before you arrived. At the bottom, one sentence was underlined twice. If you hear your name, do not answer. Behind you, the door eased shut, gentle as a bedtime book closing. Story 19. The paper that answers. First, you tried to set the page down, but your fingers didn't want to let go. The paper felt warmer than it should, as if it had been held recently, by you perhaps in another version of this moment. The room stayed cool and rain-scented. The hallway outside felt far away now, muffled as if the house had wrapped this room in extra layers of quiet. You sat at the desk without deciding to. The chair waited for your weight like it already knew the shape of your spine. When you leaned forward, the pencil rolled a fraction of an inch by itself, stopping precisely under your fingertips, an invitation disguised as convenience. Your hand hovered. You didn't want to write. Writing made things real here, but your body moved anyway. "Who are you?" You wrote, pressing harder than you meant to. The pencil paused, then it moved again, not guided by your hand so much as using it, like a glove. Beneath your question, a response formed in the same younger handwriting. "We are the part that keeps you." Your throat went tight. You tried to pull your hand back, but your grip softened as though your muscles had forgotten how to resist. The pencil continued. "The house is practicing you. You are practicing the house." A small sound came from the closet, wood shifting, soft and domestic, like someone turning over in bed. You stared straight ahead, refusing to look. The pencil wrote one more line, slower, like someone speaking quietly in the dark. "Breathe with it." Without thinking, you inhaled. The house inhaled too. Through walls and beams, through a deep, subtle flex you felt in your teeth. Exhale. The house exhaled, and for one frightening second, your fear softened into something dangerously close to relief. Story 20. The lullaby in the pipes. That night, the house became gentle in a way that felt practice. Not kind, gentle. There's a difference. Kindness comes from care. Gentleness can come from skill. It warmed the hallway first, then the stairs, then the rooms you passed like stepping stones. Lights dimmed to the same low glow everywhere, as if brightness might bruise you. The air carried a faint scent of lavender and clean cotton, like sheets folded warm from a dryer. You went downstairs because the house guided you there. The light behind you dimmed when you lingered. The light ahead brightened when you stepped forward. A trail of comfort laid down like breadcrumbs. In the kitchen, the kettle sat on the stove again. This time it whistled softly, not sharp, not demanding. A gentle note held too long. You watched it and felt your eyelids grow heavy, the way they do when you listen to rain. The cabinets looked smooth and calm, the corners rounded by shadow. Then the humming started. It came from the pipes, faint at first, like someone humming behind a wall. The sound traveled through metal the way wind travels through reeds, turning plumbing into an instrument. The melody repeated, simple enough to slip under your thoughts. It reminded you of being young and half asleep on a couch while adults spoke quietly in another room. The safety of not being responsible for your own wakefulness. The comfort of someone else deciding bedtime. Your notebook sat on the table, open. You hadn't opened it. Ink appeared slowly. Sleep is a skill. We are helping you learn. The kettle stopped whistling. The humming continued, not from the pipes now, from the air itself, like the house had begun to sing directly into your bones. Story 21. The second guest room is no longer empty. You avoided the second guest room for as long as you could, but avoidance became a kind of orbit. No matter where you went, your thoughts circled back to that door. When you finally climbed the stairs, the hallway was brighter than before, warmly lit as if prepared for company. The runner carpet looked freshly brushed, fibers leaning in one direction, like a gentle instruction. This way. The second guest room door stood wide open. Inside, the bed was made, but the quilt was pulled down as if someone had stood up minutes ago. The pillow was indented. A faint warmth hung in the air, the residual heat of a body. On the floor beside the bed sat slippers, not yours. Soft, worn at the heel, the kind someone slides into every night without thinking. On the nightstand was a cup with a tea bag tag draped over the rim. The tag was damp, still warm. Your stomach dropped. You stepped closer, slow, careful, as if speed might turn this into an argument. The mirror above the dresser reflected the room behind you. In the reflection, a rocking chair sat in the corner, wooden, pale cushion, moving gently back and forth. But when you turned, there was no chair, only the faint imprint of chair legs in the carpet, pressed deep like it had been there a long time. Your reflection smiled softly, not your smile, a proud one, like you were learning fast. You backed away, and the smile lingered a heartbeat longer before it matched your face again. Story 22. The house offers a choice. That night, the note appeared on your pillow as if it had been placed there with care. Crisp paper, clean, fold. A rectangle of certainty waiting for your hands. You unfolded it. Do you like the dark? Beneath the question were two options written neatly. A. Soft, dark. B. Complete, dark. You stared until the letters seemed to float off the page. Choosing felt like agreeing. Agreeing felt like sinking. And yet refusing felt like standing forever in a hallway that would slowly narrow until you fit. The lamp above the bed flickered once, small as a blink. A reminder, the house-like decisions. You set the note down. It slid an inch closer to your hand on its own. Your skin prickled. You swallowed. Then, because you were so tired, because you wanted a single small thing to be easy, you made a mark beside A with trembling fingers. The room changed instantly. The lamp softened into a warm amber glow, shadows blurring at their edges until everything looked gentle. The air warmed a fraction. The quilt loosened, then tucked itself around your shoulders, smoothing into place like careful hands. A deep sigh moved through the walls, so low you felt it in your ribs. Your notebook opened. Good, we can work with that. You lay down and hated how quickly your body began to relax, as if it had been waiting for permission. Story 23. The dream where you don't resist. In the dream, you weren't afraid. That was the worst part. You moved through the hallway as if it belonged to you. Doors opened as you approached, offering rooms like gifts. The air smelled of laundry and rain and soup, a blend so familiar it made your chest ache. You entered the room marked you and found it brighter now. The gray outside the window had softened into a pale morning. The desk waited with fresh paper, perfectly aligned, a pencil resting across the top like a sleeping finger. You sat. You wrote without thinking, "I'm tired." The pencil answered immediately in your younger handwriting, "We know." You looked up, and in the corner stood a shape made of shadow and soft light. Human, outlined without details. It didn't move towards you. It didn't threaten. It simply stood the way a houseplant stands, present, steady, part of the room. You felt gratitude, as if it had stayed with you through the night. The shape tilted its head slightly, and you understood without words. You are safe, because you are expected. When you woke, your cheeks were wet. You didn't remember crying. The house hummed softly in the walls, pleased like someone who's been waiting a long time to hear you finally exhale. Story 24. The morning, the house, says it back. Morning arrived gray and gentle as always, but it carried something new. Familiarity. You noticed it when you walked downstairs without needing the hallway labels, when your hand found the counter edge without searching, when the house's humming felt less like a warning and more like the background noise of a place you've lived in too long. On the table sat a plate with toast, 2 slices. You ate without thinking, and only afterward did you realize what that meant. Routine, compliance. Your notebook lay beside the plate. Ink appeared while you watched, darkening slowly as if pressed into the paper from behind. Today, you will say it first. Your pulse rose. Say what? The house answered from the corner of the kitchen, a whisper soft as steam. Home. Your mouth went dry. You stared at the empty air where the word had come from. Another line appeared in the notebook. Say it back. The house didn't rush you. It simply warmed the room a fraction more, softened the light a fraction more, made the moment feel like the natural next step in a bedtime routine. And the scariest thing was that some quiet part of you, the part that wanted comfort, predictability, warmth, almost wanted to say it. Almost. Story 25. The word that sticks to your tongue. You stood in the kitchen with the taste of toast still on your tongue, dry and ordinary, and the word the house had offered, hanging in the air like steam. Home, it had whispered. Your notebook waited, open like a mouth, the ink still wet-looking, though it hadn't moved. Say it back. The letter sat there with the calm certainty of a rule written long ago. You tried to speak anything else first, something to break the spell. Stop, you said quietly. The house hummed, unchanged. Let me out. The kettle clicked once as if acknowledging you'd spoken, but nothing shifted. The cabinets didn't rattle. The walls didn't tighten. The house didn't punish. It simply ignored the request the way you ignore a child asking for candy before dinner. Your throat felt tight, the way it does before crying. You hated that your body was reacting as if the house were a person you could disappoint. You swallowed. You tried again, forcing your mouth to form a safer word. House. The humming dipped, almost imperceptibly, like a frown. The warmth in the room faded a fraction, not cold, just less comforting, as if the house had withdrawn a blanket. Your notebook's page lifted at the corner, a gentle flutter, a reminder. You felt ridiculous. You felt tired. You felt your brain searching for the simplest path through discomfort. So you whispered the word, barely audible. Home. The house exhaled. It was not a sound. It was a sensation. A deep easing through beams and nails. A relaxation that traveled up the walls and into the ceiling, like the whole structure had been holding its breath until you spoke correctly. Your notebook wrote one new line by itself. Good. You said it right, and then beneath that, smaller, now we can begin. Story 26. The house makes room. After you said it, the house changed the way a room changes when someone you love arrives. Subtly, without announcement, but everywhere at once. The kitchen seemed brighter, not from more light, but from the way shadows softened at their edges, the corners rounded. The air warmed to a steady comfort that felt tailored, as if the house had learned your exact tolerance. You walked into the hallway and noticed the framed photographs had shifted. Still rooms, still angles, still empty. Except one now showed the kitchen table with you seated at it, head bowed, notebook open. You looked back at the table behind you. You were not there. The photograph wasn't predicting, it wasn't recalling. It was documenting something that existed in more than one layer of the house. Your footsteps sounded different on the runner rug, less creak, more hush. The carpet fibers leaned in the direction you walked, smoothing under your shoes like it was pleased to be used. You reached the stairs. Halfway up, you stopped because the air tasted slightly different. Rain. The same rain scent from the room marked you, faint but present, like a memory being spread through the whole house. Upstairs, the hallway was narrower again, only by a little, but you felt it, like sleeves, brushing as you passed. You didn't touch the walls, but you could tell they were closer, the way you can tell someone is standing behind you without turning. The door to your guest room stood open. Inside, the bed looked larger, not wider, deeper, like it had been softened, fluffed, expanded to hold you more completely. On the nightstand lay a fresh note folded with care. When you opened it, the message was simple. We made space. Come try it. Story 27. The closet gives up. A sound. You didn't want to go back into that room, but you did. The house had started to feel like a set of stairs you could only climb in one direction. The bed waited, quilt smoothed, pillow plump, the lamp glowing in that soft amber you'd chosen, soft dark, like dusk inside a closed hand. The closet door was closed now, fully closed. That alone made your skin prickle, because closed felt deliberate, opened felt accidental. But this was neat, finished, intentional. You approached it slowly. The breathing sound wasn't there, not at first. You leaned closer, ear near the wood, listening. Nothing. Then the closet made a sound like a throat clearing. Soft, private, embarrassed to be heard. A tiny scrape followed, like fingernails against fabric. Your stomach clenched. You stepped back quickly, nearly tripping over the suitcase. The closet remained still. You waited, holding your breath. A second sound came, clearer. Something shifting weight. The subtle creak of a hanger bar flexing. You stared at the door until your eyes watered. The knob turned a fraction, then stopped. Not opening, testing. Then from inside, a whisper, thin as air through a crack, formed the smallest word. Shh. It wasn't threatening. It was soothing, like someone calming a child in the next room. Your notebook opened in your hands without you noticing. A sentence appeared. Don't wake the house. It's sleeping too. You looked around, confused. The house sleeping? The house always felt awake, but then you heard it, the deep, slow settling in the walls, the low, steady hum that wasn't a hum, but a rhythm. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. The house wasn't awake, it was dreaming with you inside it. Story 28. The basement where names live. You found the basement door because the house wanted you to. It wasn't marked on a brass plate. It didn't need to be. The kitchen floorboards guided you toward it with tiny changes in sound. each step subtly louder, subtly more hollow, until you stopped in front of a plain door you were certain hadn't been there before. The knob was cool. You turned it. The stairs descended into a dim, warm darkness, not cold basement air, warm like a closed closet, like breath trapped under blankets. A single bulb hung at the bottom, already glowing, swaying slightly as if something had just brushed past it. You went down anyway. At the bottom was a narrow room with shelves along one wall. On the shelves sat notebooks, dozens of them, arranged with careful uniformity, spines outward, each labeled in neat handwriting. Names, so many names. Some looked old, faded ink on cracked covers. Some looked new, crisp labels, edges sharp. You moved along the shelf, reading without wanting to. Names you didn't know. Names you almost knew. Names that made your memory itch, like you'd heard them once in a dream and forgotten them upon waking. Then you saw it. Your name. A notebook newer than the others, ink darker, cover uncreased, as if it had been waiting to be opened. You reached for it, fingers trembling. The moment you touched the cover, you felt something press gently against your back. No hand, no arm, just presence, like the air itself leaning in to watch. You opened the notebook. The first line was already written, "Welcome back." You whispered, "I've never been here before." The page turned by itself, slow as an eyelid closing, and beneath the first line, new ink appeared. You just don't remember when you left. Story 29, The Memory. The house returns. You climb the stairs from the basement with the notebook pressed to your chest like a stolen thing. The kitchen felt brighter when you returned, warmer, as if the house approved of what you'd found. You sat at the table and flipped through your notebook quickly, as if speed might keep the words from sinking in. Pages described you with impossible accuracy, small moments from childhood, the taste of toothpaste you used at 10, the exact sound of your own laughter when it surprised you. There were entries about nights you'd forgotten, afternoons you'd sworn never happened. Then you found a page that made your hands go numb. A description of this morning, toast, the word home, your hesitation written before you'd lived it. At the bottom, one sentence waited, underlined twice. The house doesn't predict, it remembers. You stared until your vision blurred. A sound came from the hallway. Soft footsteps? No, not footsteps. Floorboards bending in sequence, like a person walking made of wood instead of flesh. It stopped outside the kitchen. Silence pressed against the doorway like a face against glass. Your notebook's next line appeared while you watched. Someone else is here. Don't be rude. Your throat tightened. The house hummed, gentle, encouraging. Then the kitchen doorway darkened slightly as something passed in front of it, not fully visible, not fully absent, a shape made of shadow and warmth, like a person standing just outside your peripheral vision. A whisper came from the hall, soft and familiar. Home. Not the house's voice. Another voice. A voice like yours, but older, tired in a different way. And in that moment you understood the second guest room wasn't a warning. It was a vacancy. Story 30. The Other Sleeper. You didn't move, you barely breathed. Your eyes stayed fixed on the doorway, waiting for the shape to become real enough to blame. It didn't. Instead, it drifted closer in tiny increments, like fog sliding across a field. The air changed first, the temperature lifting slightly, the scent of laundry deepening, the faint rain note returning like a memory surfacing. The shape stopped in the doorway. Then, slowly, it resolved into something you could almost name. Shoulders, head, the suggestion of arms hanging at its sides. No face, no details, just the outline of a person made from dim light and shadowed warmth. It tilted its head the way someone does when they're recognizing you. Your notebook lay open on the table now. You didn't remember putting it down. The pages fluttered lightly as if the house was excited. Ink appeared, deliberate and neat. This is who fit before you. Be kind. Your mouth went dry. Who are you? You asked, voice barely more than breath. The shape didn't answer with words. It stepped into the kitchen, and the floorboards didn't creak under it. They softened, they welcomed. The presence moved like someone who knew the layout by heart. It reached toward the counter, and you saw its hand, pale, almost human, fingers slightly too long like a glove stretched over air. It touched the toaster. The toaster clicked down by itself. 2 slices of bread rose a moment later, perfectly browned, steam curling gently. The shape turned its faceless head toward you, and in a voice that sounded like your own voice after waking from a deep sleep, it whispered. I said it back. The house hummed, pleased, the kitchen warmed, and the shape sat in the chair across from you, with the calm comfort of someone who has been here long enough to stop being afraid. Its presence settled like a blanket, like routine, like the first night you stopped fighting bedtime.